Have you ever said something in a moment of anger that you regretted for years? You didn't mean it, but the words came out like fire, and just like that, something you valued deeply, maybe even someone you loved, burned to ashes. We've all been there, whether it's a heated argument with your partner, a snap at a coworker, or that boiling frustration when things don't go your way. Anger is part of being human. But what if I told you there's a way to not just manage anger, but transform it? What if learning to reduce your anger could actually save your relationships and completely change your love life? Stick with me till the end of this video, because today we're diving deep into how Stoic philosophy, yes, ancient wisdom from 2,000 years ago, can help you master your emotions in the modern world. And trust me, this isn't just about feeling calmer. This is about becoming someone your future self and your partner will deeply respect. Before we jump in, hit that like button, subscribe if you're new here, and watch until the end, because this guide might just change how you love, lead, and live forever. Let me tell you a story. There's this man, let's call him Jason. On the surface, he had it all together. Steady job, long-term relationship, 2 dogs, a decent apartment. But Jason had a problem. It wasn't obvious. He didn't punch walls or throw things, but his anger would come out. In sharp comments, cold shoulders, silent treatments, it would simmer under the surface until it exploded. And every time he told himself, that's just how I am. I can't help it. Until one day, he snapped at his partner during a trivial argument, something about the dishwasher. But that wasn't the real issue, was it? That day she packed a bag and left. And Jason was left staring at an empty apartment and a deep question. Why do I keep ruining the things I love? Because of emotions I can't control? That was the moment he discovered Stoicism. And that was the beginning of everything changing. Let's unpack how Stoic principles, practical, ancient, and profoundly powerful, can help reduce anger and create peace in the chaos of everyday life. Number 1, understanding anger through a Stoic lens. Let me ask you something personal. Do you remember your first big fight with someone you truly loved? Not just a disagreement, but that one argument that left a crack in the relationship. Maybe it was something small, a forgotten date, a sarcastic comment, a moment when your voice got too loud, or your silence got too cold. Can you still remember how it felt? That tightness in your chest, the words you couldn't unsay, the look on their face when you hurt them, not because you wanted to, but because anger took the wheel. Now let me ask, what if you could rewind that moment? Not to erase the fight, but to respond differently. To be calm, to speak from clarity instead of chaos. This isn't fantasy. This is what Stoicism teaches us. See, when I tell you about Jason's story, maybe I'm also telling you your own. Jason wasn't a monster. He loved deeply. He just didn't know what to do with his emotions. Like a lot of us, he thought anger was something that happened to him. That it came from other people, their behavior, their words, their flaws. But Stoic philosophy flipped everything he believed about anger. The ancient Stoic Epictetus once said, "It's not things that upset us, but our opinions about things." Read that again. It's not what someone does. It's what we tell ourselves about what they did. When Jason's girlfriend forgot to call him back, it wasn't the missed call that made him angry. It was the story he told himself. I'm not important. She doesn't care. Sound familiar? What Stoicism gave Jason and what it can give you is the power to question that story, to pause, to separate the event from the emotion. And once you do that, you're not just reacting anymore. You're choosing. Anger loses its grip the moment you realize you're not a puppet pulled by strings. You are the thinker of your thoughts, the builder of your story. And in a love story, yours or Jason's, that can make the difference between saying, "I'm done with you," and saying, "I'm listening." So before we go any further, let me ask, what's your love story? And when was the moment anger almost cost you something beautiful? Because the tools we're about to explore, they might just help you save it. Number 2, the power of the pause, delaying judgment. Let me tell you how everything started to shift for Jason after that fight. The one where she packed her bag and left. He sat alone on the couch, replaying the words he had thrown like daggers. His heart wasn't cold. It was broken. Because the truth is, Jason didn't want to hurt her. He just didn't know how to stop. That's when he stumbled upon a Stoic idea that felt like it was written for him. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength, Marcus Aurelius. That quote hit him like a lightning bolt. He couldn't control her tone, her moods, the past, the things she said in frustration. But his reaction? His words? His pause? That was his to own. And so Jason began to practice one simple but life-changing habit. Pause just for 5 seconds. Before replying. Before defending. Before raising his voice. Those 5 seconds, they were everything. Because in that moment, something amazing happens. The emotion and the story separate. Let me explain. When someone you love says something sharp, you never listen. Or you're just like your father and your brain hears a threat. Your heart pounds. Your pride screams to fight back. But if you pause even for a breath, you can ask, what are they really saying underneath the words? Is this about me or about their own hurt? Do I want to be right or do I want to understand? Jason started doing this. At first it felt unnatural, like holding back a wave. But the more he paused, the more clarity he gained. He began to realize most arguments weren't about facts. They were about feelings. She didn't need him to win. She needed him to see her. And when he paused, he could finally do that. Now let me ask you, what would have happened in your last argument if you had taken 5 seconds? Not to freeze, not to retreat, but just to choose. That's not weakness. That's strength. That's Stoicism in action. And in a love story, that kind of strength, it's what keeps the story going. So stay with me because the next idea might just prepare you for the next time you feel that heat rising. Number 3, negative visualization, preparing for frustration. Let's be honest. Most of us wake up expecting the day to go our way. We assume our partner will say the right thing, traffic will flow, our boss won't pile on work, and our phone won't die right before that call. And when life doesn't match our expectations, that's when the anger shows up. Jason used to be the same. He expected his girlfriend to always text back fast, to understand his moods, to know what he needed without him saying it. But that expectation, it became a setup for disappointment, until he discovered an ancient Stoic practice called premeditatio, malorum, the premeditation of evils. It sounds dark, but it's actually liberating. The Stoics believed, if you expect the storm, it won't shake you when it comes. So Jason tried it. Each morning, before picking up his phone, before checking messages, he asked himself, what could go wrong today? Who might frustrate me? Where might I feel misunderstood, ignored, or stressed? And then, this was the key, he imagined himself responding with grace. He pictured her forgetting to call, and him smiling, not sulking. He imagined her being short with him after a long day, and him saying, rough day, instead of what's your problem. And it changed him, because when those moments did come, he wasn't blindsided. He had rehearsed being calm. He had practiced compassion before it was tested. Let me ask you this. What if you could practice love, the way an athlete trains for the game? Because love isn't just poetry and dates. Love is resilience. It's preparing your heart for the friction that comes with two imperfect people trying to build something beautiful. What if tomorrow morning you imagined your partner being distant, or your friend forgetting your birthday, or someone cutting you off in traffic? Would you still carry the storm inside you, or would you meet it with a steady hand and a steady heart? That's what Jason learned. Not to fear the bad moments, but to meet them on purpose. Because when you prepare for frustration, anger doesn't control you. You lead it, and in love, that kind of leadership is rare and unforgettable. So don't go anywhere. The next principle is what truly freed Jason from the trap of trying to control everything. Number 4, control and acceptance, the dichotomy of control. Have you ever been in love with a version of someone that only existed in your mind? Jason had. He loved her deeply, but he also expected her to never forget what mattered to him. To always say the right thing. To be patient even when he wasn't, to apologize first, to never disappoint him. And when she didn't live up to that ideal, he felt disrespected, hurt, angry. But the anger wasn't about what she did. It was about what he couldn't control. That's when Jason came across a single Stoic sentence that shattered his thinking. Some things are up to us and some things are not. Epictetus. 7 words. A lifetime of truth. The Stoics called it the dichotomy of control. It means there are only 2 categories in life. Things you can control, your words, your reactions, your effort, your intentions. Things you cannot control. Other people's choices, opinions, feelings, and fate. Jason realized he had been living backwards. He tried to control what wasn't his, her moods, her memories, her healing. And he neglected what was his patience, his tone, his presence. It was like trying to steer a boat by shouting at the wind. So he stopped. The next time she didn't text him back for hours, he didn't spiral. He focused on what he could do: breathe, trust, respond with calm instead of suspicion. The next time they disagreed, he didn't push to win. He asked, "What's in my control right now?" "My tone, my listening, my openness." And you know what happened? She softened too. Because when we stop trying to control others, we finally give them the space to come toward us freely. Let me ask you something deeply personal. What are you trying to control in your relationship right now? Their love? Their timing? Their understanding of you? What if you let that go and turned inward? What if you mastered the only thing you ever truly owned? Yourself. That's not giving up. That's growing up. That's Stoicism. And that's when Jason started to feel something he hadn't felt in a long time. Not just love for her, but peace within himself. Up next, we'll dive into a Stoic principle that will sound crazy at first, but it might just make you fall in love with even the hard moments. Number 5. Amor Fati, loving the challenge. Here's a Stoic idea that might feel strange at first, maybe even impossible. Amor Fati. It means love your fate.
Not just accept it, love it.
Even when it hurts. When Jason first heard that, he scoffed. You want me to love the fact that I messed up my relationship? But the more he thought about it, the more it started to make sense. Because what if the hardest parts of love were actually the most sacred? What if the challenges, the fights, the frustrations, the moments when you're both tired and distant weren't problems to escape, but opportunities to become stronger, wiser, deeper? Jason started remembering the early days, the butterflies, the late-night talks, the way she used to laugh at his dumb jokes. But those were the easy moments. Anyone can love when it's easy. The real test? Can you love when things get hard? Can you love through misunderstanding? Through silence? Through healing? That's what Amor Fati is about. It's saying, I will not run from discomfort. I will embrace it. I will learn from it. I will even thank it. Jason began writing this in his journal. Thank you for the arguments. They showed me where I need to grow. Thank you for the silence. It taught me how to listen to what isn't said. Thank you for the pain. It woke me up to the man I want to become. And slowly, the resentment turned into reverence. He stopped seeing the relationship as something that owed him peace, and started seeing it as something that was teaching him patience, humility, and real love. So let me ask you, what part of your relationship are you resisting right now? What frustration are you fighting against? What if, instead of avoiding it, you said, welcome, I'm ready? Because love, real love, isn't found in perfection. It's built in the fire. And Stoicism? It hands you the tools to stand in that fire without burning, not cold, not detached, but grounded. And that's what Jason discovered. The more he embraced the hard parts, the more beautiful the relationship became, because he became beautiful in the way he loved. Now stick with me, because in the next section, I'll show you the daily practice that quietly, but powerfully changed the way Jason thought, felt, and reacted. Number 6, journaling, the daily debrief. By now, Jason had started to feel different. Not perfect, not emotionless, but present. Less reactive, more aware, but he knew that transformation doesn't stick without repetition, and that's when he turned to one of the most powerful Stoic habits of all, journaling. Not writing essays, not poetry, just a simple practice, 5 to 10 minutes a day. It started like this. Every night before bed, Jason would sit quietly, phone on silent, and ask himself 4 questions. 1. When did I feel anger today? 2. What triggered it? Did I react with wisdom or ego? 4. How can I show up better tomorrow? That was it. But what came out was gold. He wrote about that time she interrupted him at dinner, and he shut down for an hour. He wrote about how a text from her came off cold, and how he almost snapped back, but paused instead. He wrote about moments when he failed, and moments he was proud of. At first it felt uncomfortable, like holding up a mirror in a room he used to keep dark. But then something beautiful happened. He started catching himself in real time. When anger rose, he'd hear a voice in his mind say, "You're going to write about this tonight. What kind of entry do you want to make?" And just like that, his reaction slowed. His awareness grew. He became his own guide. This simple act of reflection, this daily debrief, became sacred. It wasn't about guilt. It wasn't self-punishment. It was honesty with love. A daily check-in with the man he wanted to become. So I want to ask you something intimate. When was the last time you sat down with your own mind, not scrolling, not venting, just listening? What would change in your love life if you started recording your reactions, not to judge yourself, but to understand yourself? Because the Stoics knew something we forget today. We can't change what we don't reflect on. And Jason? He didn't just become more peaceful. He became aware. He stopped being a prisoner of his past behavior and started building his future self. One page at a time. Stick around because in the next section, we're going to zoom way out and see how Stoics used perspective to turn even the most frustrating moments into wisdom. Number 7. Perspective. Seeing the bigger picture. There's something humbling and healing about stepping back from a moment of anger and asking, will this still matter in 5 years? Jason had never done that before. He used to live in the heat of the now, where every disagreement felt like a betrayal, every unmet need felt like a personal attack, and every delay in response meant something terrible. But one night, as he sat on his balcony journaling, he read a line from Marcus Aurelius that cracked him open. You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think. Jason read it again. You could leave life right now. Suddenly, the fight they had about the laundry didn't seem so important. The tension about who was right or wrong faded under the weight of something much bigger. Time, mortality, meaning. He imagined being 80 years old looking back on this moment. Would he wish he had argued more? Would he be proud that he won the debate about who forgot what? Or would he wish he had softened sooner? Hugged her. Said, let's not waste tonight being angry. And you watching this right now. Can you think of a time when you held on to your pride just a little too long? When being right cost you closeness? Jason realized he had spent too much time trapped inside his own mind, taking everything personally, missing the bigger picture. So he began to zoom out. When she snapped at him, he asked, what might she be going through today that I can't see? When things didn't go as planned, he asked, in the grand scheme of our story, does this matter? This wasn't avoidance. This was wisdom. The Stoics believed that perspective was a superpower. It lets you trade anger for curiosity, resentment for empathy, reaction for peace. So I'll ask you now quietly but clearly, what argument or frustration in your love life right now looks huge up close but would shrink if you zoomed out? Try it. Step back. Look from the end of your life, or even just from tomorrow morning. Because when you see the whole story, you stop fighting over the punctuation. Next up, we close this journey with the Stoic virtues that helped Jason not just control anger, but live with purpose, love with integrity, and lead from within. Number 8, living by virtue, the real goal of Stoicism. By now, Jason had stopped asking the question, how do I stop getting angry? Instead, he started asking something far deeper. Who do I want to be when things get hard? And that's when Stoicism revealed its true purpose, because Stoicism isn't just about controlling emotions. It's not about suppressing anger or pretending nothing bothers you. It's about living with virtue, choosing to act with integrity, even when the world around you doesn't. The Stoics taught that a good life is built on 4 pillars. Wisdom, seeing things clearly before reacting. Courage, facing discomfort without running. Justice, treating others fairly even when it's hard. Temperance, finding balance when emotions try to pull you off course. Jason wrote those 4 words on a sticky note and put it on his bathroom mirror. Every morning as he brushed his teeth, he asked, will I respond with wisdom today? Will I have the courage to pause instead of explode? Will I show justice to the people I love even when I'm hurt? Can I meet this moment with temperance, not intensity? And over time, that became his compass, not just in his relationship, but in everything. He stopped trying to be right all the time. He focused on being good, not good in a moral, perfect kind of way, but good in the kind of way that makes people feel safe around you, seen, understood. And here's the wild part. That's when his love life started to bloom again. Not because she changed, but because he did. The man who used to lead with ego now led with character. The man who once argued to win now listened to understand. And the woman he loved? She saw it. And even though not everything went back to the way it was, something better grew in its place: mutual respect, emotional safety, a new kind of closeness. So now, dear viewer, I want to leave you with the same question Jason learned to ask himself. What would a wise, courageous, just, and balanced version of me do right now? Because when you answer that over and over again, you don't just reduce your anger. You become someone worth loving deeply, and that changes everything. So what's your story? Maybe you saw yourself in Jason. Maybe you've hurt someone you love because you didn't know how to slow down the fire inside. Or maybe you're the one who's been hurt, and you're looking for a better way to be, so you don't keep repeating the same emotional patterns. Whatever brought you here, remember this. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be honest, reflective, intentional. That's the real power of Stoicism. Not to make you cold, but to make you clear. Not to shut down emotion, but to transform it. To turn anger into understanding. Reactivity into presence. Friction into something worth building on. If this video spoke to you, if Jason's story felt like your story, then let's keep growing together. Hit that like button to help more people find this message. Subscribe if you want to build a life guided by clarity, strength, and love, not chaos. And tell me in the comments, what's one thing you'll do differently the next time anger shows up in your relationship? Because transformation starts with awareness, and you already took the first step. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.